Euromaxx highlights Lifestyle Europe, coming up on the show. Classy and collectible. The German town of Aten Berg celebrates 500 years of playing cards. Animals and art. Thought-provoking installations on display at the Aten Zoo in Vienna. Wine and crime. German vintner Andreas Wagner has a knack for writing thrillers. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
And a very warm welcome to the show from Berlin. The natural world gives us immeasurable beauty, and this is never clearer than in photos like these taken by Wolfgang Stuppi. He's actually a seed morphologist at the Botanical Gardens in Kew in London, but with the help of a very special electron microscope, he's taken amazing close-ups of fruits and plants that are out of this world. Seeds, pods and berries turned into works of art.
Nature as a work of art, and the scientist as an artist. Biologist Wolfgang Stuppi is constantly on the lookout for new artistic subjects at the world-famous Kew Gardens in London.
Why are some fruits poisonous, and why are some so large that they don't fit into the mouth of any living creature? The Field of Sion presents these fascinating aspects of natural history in such a way that they even interest people who would otherwise never buy a book about plants.
Together with a British photographer, Wolfgang Stuppi has now published 2 volumes of photographs. The idea came to him on the job. The 43-year-old biologist works at the Millennium Seed Bank, which is based at Kew Gardens. The project collects, catalogues, and preserves seeds from all over the world. Almost all the photographs in his 2 volumes were taken with a scanning electron microscope.
Photos taken with a scanning electronic microscope have a resolution and depth of field that you can't achieve with any other method. That's why the images have this hyper-realistic effect.
Scanning electron microscope images are made in a vacuum, and you can only create a vacuum in the absence of water. Stuppi's first step is therefore to dehydrate the strawberry in a special drying machine. Afterwards, the fruit feels like styrofoam. To prevent image distortions, the surface of the strawberry has to be prepared in such a way that no electrical charge can collect on its surface. So the next step is to coat the sample with a layer of platinum just a few atoms thick. In the final step of the process, a steady stream of electrons scans the surface of the strawberry point for point, line after line.
You can fit a larger object into the microscope's chamber, but you can't photograph it as a single image. For the strawberry that's on the cover of our book, for example, we had to take 39 different images.
39 black and white photographs. When the final digital puzzle is complete, Stuppi adds vivid colors.
Many artists, designers and architects like the books because of the natural structures they reveal, with such great resolution and in such fine detail. They provide a lot of inspiration for people that have jobs that require creativity.
But Wolfgang Stuppi doesn't want to only reach people who work in fields that involve structures and shapes.
Around 50% of all Germans play cards on a regular basis, and nearly all of them will have at least one pack like these from Aten Berg, a town just south of Leipzig. It's known as the home of playing cards, as they can trace back card making there 500 years. And also, Germany's most popular card game was invented in Aten Berg.
A good hand in scat is one with lots of trumps, which allow you to outplay your opponents. Once a year, scat aficionados meet in the small town of Grimme near Leipzig for the Scat Half Marathon. It's basically 12 hours of non-stop play. Here, they traditionally play with scat cards made in the German town of Aten Berg. The pros know what makes a good card.
You have to go by how they feel in your hands, how they play, how they shuffle. You can tell a good card when you shuffle it. It's easy and light.
They need to be a bit more robust. These cards only hold up for 2 series.
A good card has to have a good feel. You need to be able to play more than 5 or 6 games with it.
Smooth and strong.
The game of scat was invented in the early 19th century in the city of Aten Berg in eastern Germany. The town even has its own card museum. Over 500 years ago, the first card makers settled in Aten Berg. The early playing cards were all hand-painted. Basic printing technology wasn't introduced until later. These examples date back to 1509. They're some of the oldest playing cards in the world. Every Aten Berg card maker had his own personal style. The motifs and figures reflect everyday life at the time. Today, the Aten Berg cards are made in a factory that was built in 1832. Approximately 45 million decks of cards are produced here every year. The cards are made of particularly strong cardboard and sealed with a special varnish. The Aten Berg cards are in demand worldwide. The jacks, queens, and aces of Aten Berg are sold in more than 120 countries.
These cards, for example, this joker here, were designed here. These are our jokers. You will only find them in the Aten Berg deck. The same applies to the symbol for diamonds. This is the Ace Aten Berg diamond symbol. It's in every deck we sell. Also the design and composition of these kings. These are all typical traits of the cards from our factory and our town.
To this very day, the cards are based on the historic designs from the 19th century. Different regions also have their own playing cards. For example, in eastern Germany, scat is only played with the so-called Saxon deck. In western Germany, the French deck is dominant. It's the same one that's used for rummy or poker. Styles such as Art Deco or Art Nouveau have also influenced the look of the playing cards.
A playing card isn't simply a run-of-the-mill product. It represents a country's culture, its gaming culture. In other words, cards make a statement about a country or a region's identity. In Germany, there are different decks, just as there are different regions.
The card games are as varied as the cards themselves. In Germany alone, there are more than 50 different variations. Scat is one of the most popular card games, and its popularity is growing beyond Germany's borders. Today, scat tournaments are being held in Spain, France, the US, and South America. Very often, the cards used in these tournaments were made in Aten Berg.
Now, the Austrian capital Vienna is home to the oldest zoo in the world in its original state, and it's famous for its animal collection and its mid-18th century Baroque architecture. Currently, though, visitors are being confronted with an unusual sight as a series of art installations aims to raise awareness of the degradation of natural habitats around the world. A provocative combination of wildlife and waste.
There's a car half submerged in a pool and snowfall in the middle of winter. There are strange things going on in Vienna. The oddities are on display at the city zoo. The Trouble in Paradise project by Viennese artists Christoph Steinbrenner and Rainer Dempf is attracting plenty of attention. And they're raising a few eyebrows.
It was clear to us that if we're going to do something at the zoo, then it would obviously have to involve the animals. Ideally, something inside the enclosures and not standing around outside of them. You can find all kinds of things standing around in public areas, and I, for one, find them more distracting than anything else.
Was ich eigentlich eher als störend empfinde.
Lots of people have an idealized image of the wild. They say, the animals are locked up in here. In the wild, it's a lot nicer. It's not like that. We want to draw attention to that with these installations in a very different way.
The most conspicuous installation is a huge oil pump, which steals the show from those cute penguins.
I've never seen anything like it. It's interesting because it combines nature, animals, and something else entirely. It's pretty funny, actually.
Well, lots of kids come here because of the animals, and now they're getting an introduction to art and culture.
It's a very good idea. You see how things don't fit into the animal's habitat.
The two artists are renowned for their controversial work. In 2005, they covered all of the advertising in one of Vienna's shopping streets. At another installation in Linz, a giant Starbucks coffee logo replaced the normal entranceway to a church. Like these, the project in the Vienna Zoo surprises the unexpecting passers-by. Although the installations look simple, they had to be planned in exhaustive detail. From among many ideas, the two artists used computer simulations to choose 6 motifs. One of the most difficult to realize was the 26-meter-long train track that now divides the zoo's bison enclosure.
When buffalo were being driven to the edge of extinction in North America, a train track was laid from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and it divided them into a northern herd and a southern herd. So for one, we had to use a very specific size of gravel. And we had to use an old-fashioned way of mounting and attaching the tracks.
The zookeepers were worried that the animals might injure themselves on the installation, but the bison adjusted easily. And the crocodiles don't seem to be bothered in the least. They now share their pool with various pieces of rubbish, including an advertising board and an old bathtub. And a barrel of toxic waste in the aquarium installation makes visitors think twice.
Apparently, it's made many people think about this relationship between nature and civilization. That was our goal. So, yes, you can say it's met with some success.
Trouble in Paradise runs until October, when the objects will be disposed of, in an environmentally friendly way, of course.
From art in a zoo to art on a plate. The Dutch designer Maria Vogelsang uses all kinds of food, one of her favourites is root vegetables, as the inspiration for her designs. And her creations are almost too good looking to eat. Having written an art book called Eat Love, this summer she's been staging culinary events with a difference in Amsterdam.
It looks like something out of a fairy tale. Miniature delicacies perched on forks rising plant-like out of the earth. It's almost too pretty to eat. But guests have arrived here with an appetite. This sculpture made of desk lamps is designer Maria Vogelsang's special way of serving up something to eat.
I noticed that many times when people eating my dinners that they experience some kind of special experience that they didn't have before. So what I'm designing is not the dinner. I'm designing an experience, and I'm designing a feeling inside someone, and that's something you can't grasp, but that's what I'm aiming for.
Maria Vogelsang launched her career in food design a decade ago, while she was still a student at the prestigious Dutch Design Academy in Eindhoven. With her first book, Eat Love, The 31-year-old has published photos and information about some of her finest creations. Tonight's guests have booked a 3-course meal for €47. They've been given no idea of what to expect. The appetizer is melon and ham. Each part is served on half a plate, so sharing is key for the full effect. But Maria Vogelsang's artworks are always short-lived.
I'm really happy that my designs vanish. Of course, I'm trained to make products, so my colleagues all make products. But actually, I'm really happy that I don't stuff the world with more things.
The food designer's studio in the heart of Amsterdam is aptly named Proef, or Taste in Dutch. Preparing for the evening seems like an exercise in handicrafts at first. Apples covered in clay, fish tied up in paper. Everything is out of the ordinary, including the chicken coop in the kitchen. But Maria Vogelsang has an affinity for the unusual, especially when it comes to grocery shopping.
I do like to work with root vegetables, for example. I think it's amazing that it grows underneath the ground and you can't see it. And there's this lovely shape that's happening there. And also in the kitchen, they're really useful. And also because people don't regard them as restaurant food.
Guests of the Eat Love dinner see just how much of a delicacy root vegetables can be during the main course, which consists solely of white foods. Maria Vogelsang designed the white buffet as part of a funeral wake during her days as a student. In many cultures, white is the color of mourning. The guests appreciate the design effect. For the grand finale, Maria Vogelsang asks her guests for their energetic support. Dessert is served, and everyone gets a hammer. Eating the sculpted sweets is hardly a piece of cake.
I think it's so funny when you pack something in clay. Actually, you make a sculpture. And everybody always finds sculptures very precious, and they put it on their tables in their houses and look at it, but nobody wants to break a sculpture. But now you have to make the decision, will I break the sculpture and get to this very tasty apple inside that has lots of herbs inside, or will I keep the sculpture?
But the guests show no hesitation. In the end, it's all part of the plan for Maria Vogelsang. Her design is more than just food for thought. It's designed to be eaten.
We turn now to a classic British sports car, the Morgan. Despite all the problems in the car industry, this family-owned company near Birmingham has been successfully producing cars for 100 years. They only produce 700 annually, and the most popular model is almost the same as the one first produced back in 1936.
This is the Morgan that fans know and love. The sound, the design, the attention to detail. Some 3,000 Morgan owners and enthusiasts flocked to the town of Cheltenham in England this weekend to celebrate the brand's 100th birthday. And they came from all over, Germany, Sweden, and even as far away as New Zealand. For these car lovers, Morgan is a whole lot more than just a means of transportation.
It gives you that old-fashioned feel. In England, we call it earthy, as though you're, close to the earth.
We absolutely love it. It's a really, really nice thing to own, a nice thing to be involved with. As soon as you get in it, it brings a smile to your face, straight away. Straight away, as soon as you actually get in the car. It's very, 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 it's a good way of life.
It's felt really enjoyable. I mean, we enjoy it. And like we say, we've had one for years and enjoyed every moment of it. I think you either like them or you don't, but it's, me personally, I think it's a brilliant car.
And it's a car with a long history. In 1909, HFS Morgan founded the Morgan Motor Company in Malvern Link, a town south of Birmingham. His first design was a three-wheeler. The company caused quite a stir in the motorsports world. Already in 1928, the three-wheeler was reaching speeds of 180 kilometers an hour. But it was in 1936 that the real breakthrough came with the Morgan 4.4 going into mass production. The two-seater was to become a classic. The 4.4 is still being produced today. Apart from the engine, very little has changed, making it the car with the longest continuous production time on record anywhere in the world. There's no sign of electric windows or power steering here. Everything has remained true to the original. So if comfort is your priority, the Morgan is perhaps not the car for you. But customers can be assured that their Morgan has been painstakingly made. The factory's 120 employees still built everything together by hand. Another thing that's remained unchanged throughout the years, all Morgan models feature a body frame made of ash wood. It's engineering that harks back to the age of carriage building. But the low cost of wood is an advantage. The price of a Morgan car starts at €40,000. And at just 850 kilograms, the cars are very lightweight, which makes them surprisingly sporty. It's a recipe that has won the car company some faithful fans. Some 20,000 people around the world are owners of a Morgan.
Our main target group for Morgans is really, I'm afraid it's quite a male-dominated car, and they tend to be slightly more mature. The average age is 46 years old, but it's people who are looking to treat themselves and probably relive a little bit of their youth and basically have fun.
Having fun was the name of the game at the anniversary celebration in Cheltenham. Enthusiasts were free to test the limits of their Morgan cars on the racetrack and compare notes and admire their automobiles with fellow fans. But there's sure to be a few more opportunities to join in the fun as the timeless car company continues to celebrate its centenary this year.
Although I'm not a car fanatic, I did actually drive a Morgan once many years ago, and it's something I'll never forget. If you like to relax with a glass of wine and a good book, Andreas Wagner is your man. That's because he's a wine producer in the German region of Rhine-Hessen and also a successful crime novelist. The noble grape is often his inspiration and is also featured in his books. After all, wine cellars can sometimes be dangerous places.
Silently, Bach and Zietzky passed through the barn to the wine press that lay behind it. He felt colder with every step. The air had an alcoholic heaviness. His eyes slowly started to get accustomed to the darkness. In front of him, his eyes focused on a steel monster, as tall as a man, hoses sprouting out of each end, leading off into nothingness. Bach was not moved to further explanations by its questioning expression. Where was the body? In Herbstblut, an accident happens during fermentation. That means the body is found in the red wine mash. The new regional police officer, Paul Kenzertsky, is puzzled by a few things that don't seem to fit and starts to investigate on his own. He soon discovers that the death was by no means accidental. It was murder.
Andreas Wagner goes round his vineyards each day. He has to trim leaves and excess shoots before the fall harvest to make sure that his grapes will develop the desired amount of sugar. While out and about, he has time to think. Essenheim is a traditional wine-growing town, and the Wagner vineyards have been making wine for more than 300 years. Quite a few ancestors have been immortalized on their labels, like Andreas Wagner's great-grandfather. The Wagner wines can only be purchased here at the estate. They sell approximately 130,000 bottles every year. Andreas Wagner runs the winery along with his brother. They are a successful team, and their wines have won a number of international prizes.
When others had free time, we were always sent up to the vineyard. So over the years, we pretty much got a basic wine training right at home.
His knowledge of wine also flows into his crime novels. In the book, his main character, District Police Officer Kenzertsky, learns the finer points of wine tasting and what exactly makes a good wine. The newcomer asks countless questions of the village vintners. In the meantime, more and more readers of his wine crime novels are starting to visit the region. A wine tasting gives them the opportunity to do some exploring and often discover some of the settings that crop up in the book.
With that, I've achieved everything that I wanted. People come here and get to know and experience the region. For me, as a regional crime author, that's really nice.
Andreas Wagner has already finished writing his third novel. It's due for release in September. And of course, the whole book revolves around wine.
Don't forget, if you're interested in seeing some of those reports again, you'll find them on YouTube. Just type in Deutsche Welle English and there's all sorts of goodies there. That's all for now, though. Bye-bye.